So you want your car to look better than the day you bought it. Maybe you want to sell it, or maybe you're going to a wedding, or maybe you're just an insane clean freak. Either way, you need to know Larry Kosilla, host of the show Drive Clean and head guy at Ammo NYC. It's the amazing car detailing world of Larry Kosilla today on After Drive.
I love bringing something back that was once really, really nice and sort of faded over time. It's maybe a bit of OCD, or I don't know what it is, but I love the idea of cleaning something or vacuuming something. It's an instant gratification. You see it beforehand and it's beat up or bad or whatever, and then you do this process, and then at the end you have a gem, and it's nice to have that instant gratification within a day or two. And that's what I'm all about. Cleaning a car up and bringing it back and making it look beautiful, I think is cool. But go out and get them dirty again, drive them, and experience that, that philosophy. The heart and soul of the Porsche is actually driving, and that's where my passion lies.
To call Larry Kosilla an automotive detailing expert is like saying the Hamburglar is into striped jumpsuits. It's only part of the picture. Larry's a perfectionist at the art of making cars of all kinds look better than new, and he even sells his own line of products that he mixed himself. You're going to hear about that. If this sounds like an infomercial, well, good, because it kind of is, because Larry's show, Drive Clean, is back this season on Drive, and we want you to freaking watch it. Larry!
Yes?
Welcome to After Drive.
Thanks, man.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
So, by the way, Larry has been cleaning our studio.
Because there's stuff all over the floor.
There's crap
here
on the floor, yeah. It's like, I thought it was good, but like there are bits that
It's the
that you can be
OCD
seeing.
in me. I have to pick up things and clean. I'm cleaning your couch beforehand.
Cool.
All right.
Well, glad to have you on the show.
Yes. Thanks for coming on my podcast, by the way. That was very nice.
That's right, yeah.
We tripled our size because of your celebrity.
You know, I do what I can. So, tell me about Drive Clean. I mean, you've been on one season. This is your second season on Drive.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, Drive Clean originally was, I sat down with JF and I'm like, hey, we want to do a show about, cleaning cars and doing that. And they're like, I'm not really sure. I said, give it a shot. And it was really successful. I think people are super into it. I get a ton of emails. And I think when people are into that nerdy aspect, and being a nerd is a good thing, it's really taken off. So season 2 is kind of the same thing, but we've actually expanded into, clear bras and window tints, more of the beautification of a car. So we have tons of detailing, engine detailing, motorcycles, all that kind of thing. But also, hey, what can I do to my car? My rim is scuffed, or you know what? I want to get window tints. Is it legal? Is it not? How do you do it?
Well, there's a ton of that stuff, and it's not just like, how do I wash my car? I mean, it's from the washing of cars to all of that stuff. And if you're into that, like a lot of people are, and it's funny because commenters have all season, like since the show, was
crazy.
Over, it's every single show that we do. There's someone in there in the comments saying, "Drive Clean. When the hell is Drive Clean coming back?"
Because it kind of relates to what they can do. Not everybody can drive a 918 because there's X amount of them.
Right.
But we all have the car that's the most important to us, which is our car. So
Right.
how do we make that better or different or stand out from the crowd? So, a lot of the emails that I'll get are very crazily specific. I have a 19 da 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 da, and it has this, and it has the patina on this, and
Right.
so I think by answering a lot of those questions, people are like, wow, it's a cool interaction. So this season's exciting because we've sort of opened up the doors to, it's not just how do you polish the paint, we actually have that, but how do you beautify everything from the wheels to the windows to the clear bra, all that kind of thing.
Yeah. So what's interesting is you sort of popped out onto Drive, and we've never been properly introduced to the audience. So what's your background? How did you get started in detailing?
Well, it's sort of the story that I hear from a lot of people, where you start detailing in high school and you're just obsessed with it and you keep going. So of course I did that in high school and made some pocket money and bought a Mustang, a Fox body Mustang, which I sold, and the guy literally wrapped it around. You know when they say, oh, the car got wrapped around a pole? This literally got wrapped around a pole at the police station.
Oh man, at the police station.
It was the pole that was on. Anyway, so I saw it like 5 minutes after I sold it to the kid. Anyways, so I made a little extra money than I did, in college. And like, any college student nowadays, you go to a nice college, you're supposed to go get that corporate job. So like a little minion, I kind of went and got the corporate job. I worked on the Mercantile Exchange, trading natural gas commodities, and it was a good experience. It was fun, but the whole time I'm sitting there like doing my little notes, and the market's changing, and all these things are going on. And the guy's like, "Are you?" No, I'm writing notes and reading how to detail cars or whatever. So I left that amazing job and took a job at Cooper Classics, which is in Chelsea.
Okay.
And it's basically a curator of a museum. So he has this fleet of cars that we would rent out to the movies or photo shoots and things like that. So I would clean them up and then drive them around Manhattan. So that kind of stuff.
So detailing to them is super serious. It's like it's different than say just I want my car to look better because I just want to sell it or something.
Or
That's
or
huge.
like
That's
the
big
kid
detail.
made a mess in the back. Let's like clean it out because it smells. This was like the car's got to look a certain way because a model is going to be like drapes all over it or whatever. So my job was to clean it up, bring it, and I had to drive it around Manhattan, which was really terrible for me. Driving around a Ferrari in Manhattan when you're 20-something years old.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Pretty cool. And then I watched and made sure that they didn't scratch anything. Mm-hmm. So that sort of steamrolled, and I got a ton of experience with these exotics and older cars. And then eventually I said, hey, I want to do this on my own. And the biggest thing is I researched. I know a lot of people have been asking me, how do you start? And I researched all the car washes in the area, and you know me by now. I'm like real nerdy about.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, I've never had anyone come on here who brought so many notes.
Yeah.
And like a spreadsheet. Like I can imagine notes, but a spreadsheet.
Yes, we have to have everything. My OCD is.
Well, and it's perfect for car detail.
Yeah, it knows no bounds. But
yeah.
So I researched everything, and I figured out, hey, and I had a little map. And these were all the car washes in the area. And I figured out what they did and the competitive advantages, and I really got nerdy into it. And then I found one that was perfect in a place where I grew up in Westchester. Mm-hmm. Turns out, it was just like heaven sent that the guy actually wanted to get out of the business because he was getting older or whatever. So I swooped in and took it over and ran it for multiple years. And that's how I gained experience, and that's how I got into that world.
Got it.
Yeah.
So what was the next step? So like that was just, you did that for a while.
I did that for 5 years.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew Matt Farah, Mike Musto, right. Jay, like we were all in that family together.
Well, that's funny you should mention, because like that's a fairly high percentage of drive hosts and stuff that you worked with back then.
Yeah, that's because a lot of people say, how did you get on the drive channel? How did you? I went to high school with all these kids. Musto was in my wedding. Matt Farah, you know what I mean? I've known you forever. We all knew each other from one thing or another. And then once the Drive Channel kind of came to be, and it was great. That's when I went to JF and said, hey, I think I got this good idea for a show. Yeah. And then the rest is sort of history. So. All
right, cool. So then but since then, now you have a line of actual products, right? So you told me, and I had to have you on also because this is a really interesting story. Because a lot of people are in a field and they sell a line of products in something that they do, and they're not really, their hands aren't dirty in how it's made.
Yeah.
And that's the difference, is that you actually created this stuff, which is kind of wacky.
Yeah, I kind of think of it as somebody in a suit versus someone, like 9 times out of 10, I'm in dirty clothes, like working on my hands and knees, working on a car, and that's a big difference for me. So, the story that I was telling you is when I had that shop a couple years in, I was doing lots of these great cars, and when you're doing something like that, there's a high volume, so somebody will come in and say, hey, can you buy our products? And you get that pretty regular, on a regular basis. So a guy comes in, he says, you want to buy these products? I said, why don't you show me how to use them? And he said, well, you've been doing it forever. Here, you use them. I was like, I honestly, I don't know what your product is. Teach me, show me something new. Mm-hmm. So the guy comes in and works on a car, and I let him work on I never forget this, a silver Mercedes. And I gave him the wheel, the buffer machine, and I said, show me, and he right through the paint. I was like, oh my God, why did I do that? So I was like, get out of the shop before I kill you.
And it was a customer's Mercedes, right?
It was actually one of my employees at the time. So
So you were pissed.
Yeah, I was like, well, come on, man. So we had to fix it and figure it out. But the point of the story is, a couple weeks later, somebody from that organization came back and said, hey, would you be willing to help us drive the direction of the products themselves? Do I need more compound or more abrasive, less abrasive, viscosity, all these things that I could sort of translate into the detailing world from the chemistry. So I did that for a long time. And the cool part was I would go with the chemist and sit right next to him while we're making these big batches, like 600 gallons of car wash up. And I would sit there next to him and say, how are things going? And like, is he mixing this right or whatever? And I learned the chemistry behind it. So it was cool to have the detailing part, but then to spend 4 or 5 years with the actual chemistry part of, hey, if we lower some abrasive on this particular thing or raise the emulsion or whatever, how does it translate into actually doing the car? I think the combination of that knowledge from one side to the other made a better product.
Well, did you have any background in chemistry before, or you just learned this stuff?
I learned it by watching the guy, and then just like, the world just kind of opens up. He had to leave, he was getting older and he left. So I sort of took over the manufacturing. But the ironic part is my dad's chemist actually worked on Pop Rocks, which is kind of funny. So that's like
awesome.
Our claim to fame. We had like bags of Pop Rocks as a kid. And my wife has her PhD in chemistry, in organic chemistry. So that was helpful. And the joke is with that she made it so that I didn't blow anything up.
That's good.
Yeah, so I was like, hey, this formula here, how does that work? She'd be like, yeah, no, there's going to be lots of things that go wrong with that. Don't do that one. I'm like, okay, cool. So it's a lot more in depth than I think slapping a label on it.
Yeah.
It's just, slap a label on it and sell it. I've really poured a lot of time into it.
So getting back to like the stuff that you've done with that knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So what's you've done some pretty insane cars over the years, right? So
yeah, yesterday and today we just talked about that. I have to do a Bugatti Veyron down the street. Life stinks. What are you gonna do? But yeah, I've worked on some of the rarest Porsches in the world, which is it's amazing to see the history. Like, this is the first one of whatever. This is the last model of such and such. So the thing I like to get across to people is you don't go to Mako.
Right.
You don't get that repainted. In theory, yes, you can repaint it, but it actually devalues the history of Porsche. So the magnitude of some of the cars, sometimes I pinch myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm standing next to the first one ever made or something like that.
Well, and how do you approach a project like that?
That's one of the questions that you were asking me on.
I'm glad you.
I have all my questions right here. Should we get
your
a pen
handwriting
and
is immaculate.
Yeah, thank you. Should we check all of these off? No. One of the and we'll touch on this is one size doesn't fit all. It's
right.
kind of my broad statement where you approach a car. It's not, and I do this on camera sometimes in my ride-along videos, because I have drive clean and then I have my ride-alongs, which is I turn on the camera and while I'm detailing a car, it's just off the cuff. Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of viewers watching that. But essentially, when you approach a car, it's not just going cookie cutter. Oh, it's a math equation. I use the same equation to do every single car. You have to assess it. So I have a few videos on that where I'll come in and measure the paint. Sometimes I'll go to a car and I'll say, sir or ma'am, I can't do it. And they say, well, why not? Because there's no paint for me. It's a catch-22. I can't polish something that's not there. I can't repair something. As a detailer, I'm not, in reality, putting paint on there. I'm actually reducing it in some respects. So I have to have enough there to polish it out. So that's kind of a broad theme as to what I do when I approach a car. It's completely different every single time. There are some similarities, but when I'm talking about one of one in the world, you can't just go like, oh, I'm going to wash it the same as I would my Ford Explorer.
Right.
Well,
and paint's changed over the years too. So if you have like a car that's original, has the original paint job.
Yeah.
Obviously it's there.
Yeah, it's single stage paint, and a lot of times you'll see, the old videos or whatever, a guy will take a rag and rub the car, and the color of the car will come off on the rag. Mm-hmm. That's basically single stage paint. And then they've evolved into two-stage paint where they have the color and then they put a thinner coating on top of it called a clear coat. Mm-hmm. And then when you rub it, it actually doesn't come off the same color. But the advancements in paint, I think, is throwing another, not a monkey wrench, it's really exciting. It's just, it lends itself to what I was saying before. or emphasizes that it's not one size fits all. So each car has a different, life of its own in terms of, is it a single stage paint, is it double, and then each manufacturer has their own painting scheme. Some are really hard, some are really soft.
Yeah.
So one of, the big question I get, and I kind of go like, every time I get it, is how do I detail my car? I'm like, it's like, there's no detail. I have no information. What year is it? What condition? What are you trying to get out of it? Are you trying to make it a show car? Or are you just trying to protect it because you're in, Maine or something and it's got 10 feet of snow and, you know what I mean? So,
well, that's a good question. So if there were 5 things, say, or as many things you want, so like, what are the things that people should know about detailing before they either do it themselves or try to do it themselves or bring their car to a detailer to get done?
Yeah, I'll give you broad things. And I think the first one is one of the most common issues is the problems that are caused on your car.
Mm-hmm.
And people think, there's this mysterious thing happening. I ran a tree, I hit it. You know what the problem is? It's the owner themselves. It's kind of like going on the top of this thing. You're the one causing it to not look as good as it could. And I know that may sound a little weird, but there's something called love marks, meaning you love your car so much and you just keep wiping and touching and playing. You're actually causing, if you're doing it improperly, I call it the syndrome of the teddy bear, where you just love your teddy bear so much that you squeeze it and the head pops off. You're like, there's certain ways to interact with your car. I know that sounds a little weird, but if you adhere to those sort of broad rules, the car will have a longer life looking better. I mean, you can do anything. You can throw rocks at your car all day long. That's fine. I mean, if you're cool with that, that's great. But my little segment of crazy nerds like myself, there's just a certain way, and it translates down to, I create a thing called regimen. So it's like a certain way of approaching a vehicle where it gives you multiple options based on the condition of the car, as opposed to just going, use this product to use that thing, and you know what I mean? It's mindless. You have to put a little thought into it. So that would be the broad theme with that particular one, but yeah.
Well, so, I mean, because so many people, and it's because the paints are so good now. I mean, most new cars have a pretty good paint. The 2-stage, you were saying, that most people, they can't tell the damage that they're actually doing when they're washing or detailing wrong. Right?
That is that's the number one thing. When everybody knows now that when you wash your car improperly, you cause scratch. Everybody, you got the 1 bucket, the 2 bucket, the 3 bucket, the 4, the 50 bucket system, and you got the foam gun, and you got the special soap, and the special mitts, everything. So everybody's focused on washing, which is true. You want to remove that dirt in a way that it doesn't act like sandpaper, right? You want to lift it up and then wash it away, as opposed to grind it in. Everybody who's detailing has got that. So when I was doing, going back to one of those old cars, doing a very, very rare car where you just can't repaint it. So I would put my microscope in season 1, I think I did it on the last episode.
Yeah.
Put my little nerdy microscope in there, and I get to see on my Mac really what's going on. So I measure the before and after. You want to get crazy nerdy?
Yeah.
Before and after washing the paint, and I said, okay, I go through all these steps. There's no way that I'm scratching it, and I measured it, and I was like, okay, there's no scratches. And then I'd measure at the end, there'd be scratches again. Like, I'm talking minute. And I figured, okay, I isolated the one thing that I wasn't really focused on, which was drying the car. Everybody's so focused on washing the car that you forget about the drying aspect. So that's why I created certain products that add, lubricity and protection when you're drying. Because most people think, hey, the safest way is to do that with air, and it's true. But for my particular thing, I can't use air on the first Porsche ever made. It'll it'll disintegrate. Right. In theory.
Lubricity.
Lubricity, you like that? Yeah. So.
I mean, that would be like lubricating the area.
Yeah, when there's water already on the car, how do you remove that safely? That's the drying aspect. So a lot of people, they take out the chamois, the chamois that you can hold straight out when it's dry, and it's like ding, ding, and then you make it, get wet, and it's nice. But what's cool or interesting about that is chamois absorb water, but they don't pick up dirt.
Okay.
So that kind of concept, when I do little detailing seminars or whatever, and they go like, oh, okay, yeah, I get that. Chamois are great. They're just like, they suck up the water. But a lot of times when you're washing a car, and I've said it 1,000 times, I make mistake. Everyone's going to make a mistake when you're washing a car. You're just going to miss that little bit, and that little bit is going to roll over the paint when you're using a chamois, because it absorbs the water. It doesn't actually pick up the dirt.
Right. So
that's why we came up with this idea of using a microfiber towel damp, because microfiber towels in general don't like water, generally speaking. So once you get it wet and wring it out, it likes water more. So I added this product that adds lubrication, and then you remove the water that way. So if there's any dust or dirt on it, you actually pick it up. But the key is once you're done with the microfiber towel, you either discard it, meaning put it in the wash machine, or get a new towel or whatever. But with a chamois, you kind of just like wring it out, and everybody you throw it in the bucket over there, and it's like it like rigor mortis. Like the next day, it's all like it. So that was kind of fun to isolate. Like really isolate with the microscope and be like, okay, we found what's causing these scratches because we spent so much time on the washing but not the drying. So anyways, that's
there's drying. What are the processes from cleaning to protecting? I mean, is it a way to, can you isolate it into 3 categories or of things to
properly
do?
washing, properly drying, and I think the third biggest one would be removing the contamination from the paint. So you can wash all day long, you can dry and have it perfect, but think of it, I use these weird examples and it kind of strikes home. Think of it like pimples in your face. You can go take a shower, you can wash it all down, you can dry it properly and put your moisturizer or whatever on your face, and maybe for you, but
well, I moisturize 7 or 8 times a day.
Yes, well, what Ian was saying, you're so shiny.
Absolutely.
But when you actually have a pimple, those pore strips back in the 10 years ago, whatever it was, you put the pore strip and then you pull it off. That's kind of like claying your car.
And you have the
all the gunk that's in there.
Yeah,
it's the same thing as the clay. Just imagine that on your car that you clay bar it and it actually picks up all the junk.
It's like a mask for your car.
Yeah, actually we should. Don't tell anybody that. I'm using that.
You got that.
Do I have that one? All right,
for
cool.
free.
But so yeah, that's sort of this very basic steps to exfoliate the
interesting.
skin.
I know, but that's an interesting analogy, though. Skin, because it is a skin. There is a porosity to it, right? I mean,
absolutely.
There is. It's not just a flat thing. I mean, if you put a microscope
no doubt about
up
it.
to paint, it's
that's why we called it skin and we called it cream. We wanted to make it very cosmetic-y because in reality, I guess in theory, it's more like your skin than not. There are pores, like especially in the interiors, the leather.
Yeah.
Those are bigger pores.
We haven't even talked about the interior at all, because
So
that's
much
the
to talk
entire.
about.
Yeah, well, you can watch Drive Clean this season. I'm sure there's all kinds of
There's
stuff. But
lots of.
in general, though, taking care of interiors seems to be a lot more complicated than taking care of the exterior. But is it? Or
It is. It's. I don't know if complicated is the right word, but it's different because the materials that are on the inside of the car clearly are way different than the outside, right? If you're driving in rain or whatever, it's not like. So they're 2 different things. So when I was creating products for this, you needed to address the fact that there's pH levels. Like if you're looking at Alcantara or what is this fake couch?
That would be fake Alcantara.
So the way that you would address that versus doing something like leather is a little bit different because there's pH levels that you have to. I remember leather. That was a cow walking around at one point in X amount of time.
It was,
years ago or whatever. But so the way that you would approach that is different than say, I'm going to wax the outside of my car. I'm going to wax my. It goes back to my first point where everything has its own little. You don't just kind of put your blinders on and be like, oh, I'm going to wipe down this sort of thing. So it's kind of.
Well, that's all right. So I'm going to go and get my car detailed. How do I know how to pick a good detailer if I'm not going to do it myself? So I guess if you're going to do it yourself, you have to kind of do a little bit of research into what it is you're actually doing.
Yeah.
And by watching your show, of course.
Yes, thank you.
But if you were going to bring your car to a detailer, like how can you tell if a detailer is on point?
One of the bigger things is I actually looked at the parking lot. That's kind of a big deal for me. Look at the parking lot. I know that sounds a little, but back in the day when I had my car washed, I'd love to have all the cars that I had finished and just bang, bang, Ferrari. And you walk in and you're like, wow, all right, this guy has an idea of what's going on here.
Yeah.
So, and you can sort of feel a detailer. You have to pump him with questions like, so what do you do for this, or how do you get his response and see if he's up to speed, as opposed to, we'll have it in at 1 o'clock and we'll have it done at 3 o'clock,
right?
And it costs this much. So when I talk to a lot of guys, they'll say, how much does this cost? And I say, I have no idea. They're like, well, what do you mean you have no idea? I was like, I haven't seen the car. You don't take a project and just say it's a McDonald's, it's going to cost $1.25. That's something that would make me nervous if somebody were to say it's $200, right, whether there's a dead body in the back seat or it's brand new. It's like So
one last thing, what about car? So car washes generally are they dangerous? I mean, is there is there a detriment to taking your car to a car wash, assuming that it's a reputable, good car wash, or should you always hand wash?
That's a good question. We're define it a little bit more. We're going to go with high volume car wash, meaning you put it on like the chains or whatever, and it drags you through.
Yeah.
So we'll put those in one category, and then we'll say hand washing by yourself or going to a reputable, like a guy who details cars
Right.
for a living as opposed to high volume. Then that's fine as well. Either you do it or go to somebody like that. But the difference between the two of them is so huge, and it goes back to a lot of my manufacturing background.
Right.
Where back in the days when I was doing that for, and helping another company, we would make products that weren't necessarily the best. They were the cheapest, and we could move them, and they would get sold to big car washes because they're just looking to buy big drums and things. That's when I was sitting behind the scenes and learning from this guy, and that's how I got the education to say, hey, all right, and remember that example I told you? We would make 650 gallons. You got to show that picture of the big.
Oh, yeah.
Of me mixing 600 gallons of car soap, and when I was watching this guy and learning, and one of the things we would do is put 6 bags of 80 pounds each. I'd put them over my shoulder, and I'd lean them over the edge and cut it with a razor blade and dump all this salt, table salt in there, because the viscosity would go way up, meaning you have a thicker product and you could cut it more. And that's what the car washers were concerned about, having the lowest price. And sort of the thing that I talk to people about is when you manufacture, the cost goes up the fewer things that are in there, meaning the more refined it is, the more it costs.
Right.
So go back to your question, to go into that high volume car wash, they're more concerned with getting cars out. And remember, when I talk to people, I say, look at the car that's in front of you. Half the time it's a pickup truck that's got mud or whatever, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then you're sitting in your little Porsche Boxster behind it saying, I want to clean my car, which is great. But you don't see a guy when you go into the car wash going like with the big dial going like, ooh, this is a dirty car. Let's turn it to the dirty style. And then this is a cleaner car. We need to be, they don't, they just can't. I get that. And I respect it. That's why it costs $7 and you're in and out, and that's great. But I'm speaking particularly to the nerdy group where that's something that was like, oh wow, I learned behind the scenes. I actually saw what they're buying and what they want. They're not going to spend more money to have a better product because it doesn't make sense. I get it for that industry.
Right.
So seeing the behind the scenes was important in the development of the products and what I'm trying to get out there and educate people on that. It's not a right or wrong answer.
Right.
Like if you have a car that you don't really care about and you want to spend $7 and get it through, totally fine.
Yeah.
But the strength that's needed to clean that nasty truck may be too powerful for your car.
Right. So
yeah.
It's got to be the standardization. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So if you go to somebody who's more,
it's always going to be doing it yourself.
Yeah,
is
because
always going to
you're going to
take
know.
more
Hey,
care.
if it's a little bit dirtier, I'm going to back off. Or in some cases, I tell people, hey, don't wash your car. Like as I do mine all the time. That if it's perfectly clean and I go out for a ride and then I come back and I want to go the next day, it's not that dirty. It's just dusty. I'll rinse it off, hydrate the car. Perfect. You don't want to go through the least amount of touching on the car that you can do. That's the general rule. The least amount of touching you can do, the better.
Cool.
So that's.
So what's coming up this season?
This season is
Drive
exciting.
Team?
The first, like I said before, we tried to incorporate this year a lot of beautification things, not just me like with a microscope going, okay guys, we're gonna, whatever. I tried to make it a little bit broader.
Yeah.
So the first one is PPI, which is pre-purchase inspection. So I said, hey, you want to go buy a used car? And in this case, the little twist here is I was trying to buy my own car. And I trying to get a Porsche 964. I've wanted one forever. So I found it, and the timing was perfect. I mean, all the stars aligned. So I said, we're filming this, let's get this done. And it goes through the steps that you need to think about when you're going through a PPI.
Okay.
So, and everything from researching and talking to the guy and getting a feel for the actual buyer.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. And then everything from, we change the rims up. What happens when your rims are scuffed? What does somebody really do to it? So we go through a factory and watch them doing that.
That's cool because
it's really cool.
Curbing. This is New York, so we curb rims
and bent. What do you do when the rim's bent? You got to see these
Exactly,
machines and contraptions they have to, because they put them on these wheels and on these machines that basically tell if it's off by like 1/1000th of a, and then you can feel it in the steering wheel. It's pretty wild.
That's cool.
So it's intense. We did things like that, dents, touch-ups, clear bras, window tints, and more like getting into the mind. Like I'm not a window tinter. I went to actual school for it. It's really complicated, and so I have a guy that I've known forever who's crazy about it. And I said, can we talk to you about it and film it and show me what's going on in your mind? And he's getting in there, and it's pretty complicated. So I think having that education, beforehand when you want to go get your window tints, you'd be like, oh, I know how much time it takes. I know, I want this tint. I live in this state. I can't get this window. That kind of thing. So
that's true, because some stuff, well, especially tinting, some stuff is illegal.
Yeah, like we live on the border of New York. Connecticut's right there, and New York's right here.
Yeah.
So if you go from one to the other, there's actual changes.
Yeah.
So you can get in trouble. So whatever. We talk about all that kind of thing. And
that's great.
Yeah. And then the last one was we found a Porsche barn find. So it was right in the middle of shooting.
That was cool. Yeah, we have a couple of shots of that.
Yeah, Roger Garbo, a buddy of mine, called me up and was like, hey, are you shooting? I'm like, yeah, we're actually, he's like, I think I have a great idea. And it was a Porsche that was in a barn for 25 years. And a guy picked it up, put it in his garage, and we pushed it out. And literally, mice and all kinds of nasty stuff was in there. And we spent the day restoring it back to condition. So that's going to be kind of fun.
That's very cool.
Yeah, lots of fun stuff coming up.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a great show, and you got some very, very devoted, insane fans.
Yeah, it's pretty. I'm grateful for all of them. They're as nerdy as I am. That's what I like to say.
And your show probably already started. Right?
That's right.
By
it started
the time you see this.
Yesterday at 9 a.m. from 9 to 3 on Wednesdays before.
Yesterday would have been
Chris
Wednesday. Today, though, it's Thursday. In TV time.
In TV time, yes.
Yes.
So watch
cool.
it.
Larry Kosilla, good to see you, man.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
I'll talk to you soon.
Yep.
That's Drive Clean every Wednesday on
night.
Drive this season. And that's it for After Drive. Don't forget, @Drive on Twitter, Facebook.com/DriveTV, /Drive.TV, and Drive.jalopnik.com. I think I nailed it all.
I think you did.
See you guys next week.